Welcome, dear dreamer. You found your way to Moonlight Whispers, a quiet corner of the night where stories breathe softly, time slows down, and the world feels just a little more gentle. Settle in, let your thoughts rest, and allow tonight's tale to guide you into calm, warmth, and wonder.
There are objects in this world that carry memories the way winter carries snow, softly, quietly, and gently. Some memories cling to the surface, glittering faintly like frost in the moonlight. And others live deep inside, waiting for the moment when someone warm-hearted and patient enough picks them up and listens. This is the story of one such memory and one such listener.
It was the first truly cold evening of December when Elias Hartley found himself wandering through the old part of town. Elias never rushed anywhere. He liked slow walks, especially under winter skies that looked powdered with distant starlight. He liked the hush that came when snow began to fall, the way the world softened, sounds dimmed, and even thoughts seemed to slow down, floating like gentle flakes in cold air. On this particular evening, snow was falling exactly like that, soft, quiet, unhurried. The streets were lined with small antique stores and holiday shops preparing for the season. Warm golden lights glowed behind frosty windows. Garlands hung above doorways, and the air smelled faintly of cinnamon pine cones and distant fireplaces. Elias didn't plan to buy anything, he rarely did, but he enjoyed looking at old clocks, worn-out books, forgotten toys. He always felt they had stories inside them, living silently between gears and pages and chipped paint. When he turned the corner onto the narrowest street of the old district, he saw a tiny shop he'd never noticed before. Its sign was carved from wood, ember and oak curiosities. The door was slightly open, letting warm amber light spill softly onto the snow. Something, he couldn't explain what, pulled him inside. A calm and quiet tone, as if reading a bedtime story. A bell above the door chimed with a warm, rounded tone as Elias stepped in. Inside, the shop felt like a pocket of time suspended in warm candlelight. Shelves overflowed with small wonders, carved wooden animals, delicate glass ornaments, silver keys, old music boxes, framed pressed flowers, crystal pendants. Everything felt intentionally placed, as if the owner curated each item not for sale, but for safekeeping. A gentle voice drifted from somewhere behind the counter. "Take your time, dear. The right thing always finds the right person." An elderly woman emerged from the back room. She had kind eyes and wore a knitted shawl with tiny shimmering beads that caught the light like distant stars. Elias nodded politely, but didn't speak. He simply wandered deeper into the shop. Past a shelf of pocket watches, past a small basket of carved wooden foxes, past a row of snow-white candles that smelled faintly of vanilla and cedar. And then, he stopped. At the far end of the shop, sitting alone on a velvet-lined table, was a snow globe. It wasn't particularly large. Its base was smooth, dark wood, carved with swirling patterns that resembled drifting snow. Inside the globe, under a soft dome of glass, stood a miniature winter house. A cozy cabin with warm golden windows glowing from within. A tiny pine tree leaned gently beside it. A narrow path curled through the snow leading up to the front door, and tiny flecks of silver and white rested softly on the cabin's roof. But what drew Elias in, what brought him closer, was not the scene inside the snow globe. It was the feeling. A strange, warm, familiar feeling,
as if he knew this cabin, as if he had stood on that snowy path before. He lifted the snow globe carefully and cradled it in both hands. The glass was cool, but the wood base felt warm, strangely warm, as if someone had been holding it just moments earlier. Elias tilted the globe gently. Snowflakes began to swirl. But instead of rising and falling slowly, drifting lazily like typical snow globe flakes, these moved with purpose. They spiraled toward the cabin, gathering around its door and illuminating the warm windows with shimmering light. Elias blinked. The scene inside the globe seemed to shift, just slightly but unmistakably. The path looked different, the glow seemed brighter, the cabin felt alive. A whisper reached his ear, soft, like distant wind. "Remember." Elias nearly dropped the snow globe. "That one," the elderly shopkeeper said gently behind him, "it's been waiting a very long time."
"You've seen it before, haven't you?" the woman asked. Elias hesitated. He didn't want to sound strange, but the truth was undeniable. "Yes," he said quietly, "but I don't know why." The woman smiled warmly, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the shop. "Some memories don't belong to the mind," she said softly. "They belong to the heart, to the quietest part of us. And sometimes things like this," she touched the snow globe gently, "help us hear them." He didn't understand, not fully, but he felt guided, as if something gentle and certain was nudging him forward. Without meaning to, he asked, "How much is it?" The woman shook her head. "No price, only a promise. Take good care of what it shows you." Elias opened his mouth to protest, but she had already wrapped a snow globe in soft cloth and placed it into a small box made of dark cedar wood. When she handed it to him, she added, "Tonight would be a good night to listen." Snow was falling thicker now when Elias stepped back outside. The lampposts glowed hazily in the winter air, and every sound felt muted behind a curtain of drifting snow. He carried the cedar box gently, as if it were fragile or precious, because somehow he knew it was both. His small apartment sat above a quiet bakery 2 blocks away. By the time he climbed the stairs, snow clung to his coat, his scarf, even his eyelashes. Inside, the apartment was warm and softly lit. He hung up his coat, brewed a cup of chamomile tea, and set the box on his wooden table. For a long moment, he simply looked at it. Then, he opened the lid. The snow globe seemed to glow faintly, as if it had absorbed the shop's warm light and brought it home. Elias sat down, wrapped his hands around the wooden base, and lifted the globe close to his face. Snowflakes inside were still. The cabin looked peaceful. The windows glowed softly. And then, with the gentlest tilt, he turned the globe. The snow inside burst into motion, but instead of scattering randomly, it swirled in a slow, spiraling dance. The glow from the cabin windows brightened, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. And then, Elias wasn't in his apartment anymore. Not fully, not physically, but the room around him dimmed, and suddenly he was standing outside the cabin from the snow globe. Snow fell around him, silent and gentle. A soft wind carried the smell of pine and wood smoke. He looked down. His boots left footprints in fresh snow. He took a slow breath. The air was crisp and cold,
filling his lungs in a way that felt both unfamiliar and profoundly comforting. A memory surfaced, not as an image, but as a feeling. Warm hands, laughter, a gentle voice saying, "Look at you, all bundled up." Elias stepped toward the cabin. Inside the windows, shadows moved, soft, slow, peaceful. When he reached the door, something tugged at his chest, a mixture of longing and sadness. He reached out. His hand passed through the door as if it were made of mist, and suddenly he was back in his apartment, breath unsteady. The snow globe rested calmly on the table. The snow inside had settled, but something had changed. Elias wiped moisture from his eyes, tears he didn't remember shedding, because now he understood. This cabin wasn't a random scene. He had been there before, long ago, with someone who mattered.
Over the next several evenings, Elias returned to the snow globe again and again. Each time, the memories grew clearer. He remembered the cabin's wooden walls, lined with books and old postcards. He remembered a small iron stove that crackled softly in winter. He remembered a wool blanket draped over a rocking chair by the window. And he remembered her, a quiet, warm presence, a woman with gentle hands and silver hair pulled into a loose bun, a woman who hummed soft Christmas melodies as she brewed cocoa, a woman who smelled faintly of pine needles and vanilla. His grandmother. He hadn't thought of her in years. Life had rushed him forward, jobs, moves, responsibilities. But the snow globe remembered. It remembered for him. Every evening he saw more. Her smile, her holiday cookies, her soft voice reading winter stories by the fireplace, her hands guiding his as they decorated a little pine tree, the very same tree inside the globe. The memories warmed him, but they hurt too, because he remembered the last winter he spent with her, how she was slower, weaker, how she held his hand and told him how proud she was of him. He had been too young to understand goodbyes, but the snow globe understood, and it showed him what he didn't let himself remember. Not sorrow, not loss, but love. Deep, patient, gentle love. On December 24th, snow fell heavier than ever before. The world outside Elias's window was buried in white softness. He brewed a warm mug of cocoa, the way his grandmother used to make it. He set the snow globe on the center of his table, lit a small candle beside it, and dimmed the lights. The room filled with golden, flickering warmth. Elias took a deep, steady breath, picked up the snow globe, and turned it. Snow swirled fast, faster than ever. The light inside grew brighter, and suddenly he was standing inside the cabin. Not outside, not dreaming, inside. The fireplace crackled softly. The air smelled of cedar and cinnamon. Warmth wrapped around him like a blanket. And there, in the rocking chair by the window, sat his grandmother. She looked exactly as he remembered, soft-eyed, warm-smiled, timeless. She motioned him closer. He walked slowly, heart trembling. When he reached her, she placed a hand over his. Warm, gentle. "My dear Elias," she whispered softly, "you remembered your way back." He couldn't speak. His throat felt tight. "You carried so much," she said. "So many worries, so many long nights. I hoped the snow globe would help you find peace again." He looked at her through tears. "I miss you," he whispered. "Oh, sweetheart, I'm always near. Memories never leave. They only wait." She leaned forward, touching his forehead lightly. "You're stronger now, kinder, wiser, and you're not alone. Not ever." The cabin glowed brighter, warm, golden, comforting, and as he blinked, he was back in his apartment. The snow globe glowed softly on the table. The candle flickered gently beside it, and Elias felt something he hadn't in years. A quiet heart, a warm calm, peace.
The next day, Christmas morning, Elias returned to Ember and Oak Curiosities. But when he reached the narrow street, the shop wasn't there. Not closed, not empty, not moved, simply gone. Only fresh snow rested where the door once stood. No footprints, no sign, no bell, just silence. Elias stood quietly in the falling snow. He didn't feel fear or confusion, only gratitude. He touched the snow globe gently through the fabric of his coat pocket. It was warm, and he understood. Some places exist only when someone truly needs them. Some memories return only when the heart is ready. Some magic lives quietly, softly, like snow settling on a peaceful winter night.
That night, Elias placed a snow globe on his bedside table. He didn't shake it. He didn't expect visions. He simply watched the tiny cabin's warm windows glowing in the dim light. He whispered, "Thank you for remembering." Outside, snow fell softly, the way it does when the world feels gentle and kind. And Elias slept deeper than he had in years. The snow globe stood silent, still, calm, holding its memories with quiet care, waiting, as all good memories do, for the next time it would be needed. May your night be gentle, your dreams be kind, and may the moonlight always find you. Good night, dreamer.